Hey rockers, happy Saturday night or Sunday morning, depending on when you're watching this. I want to dedicate this video tonight to my late great friend, Tipo Varnado, the spoken word poet, the rogue poet, and a great friend of mine. Rest in peace, Tipo. Hey Jet Dog, stop it, man. Back here scratching on the carpet, trying to ruin my video. This shirt was given to me by my late friend, Tipo Varnado. It's so cool. Elton John, Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy. Tonight, I'm coming at you with a story from 1982. That's right, we're going back to Chicago, to the Rosemont Horizon, which is actually in Rosemont, Illinois. Yeah, the Rosemont Horizon in Rosemont, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago. My dog's driving me nuts. Man, this is a crazy tale, and a lot of the detail deals with before and after the show, not necessarily the show itself, although there's some details there too. Check it out, man. So two friends of mine, Ross Stroh and Kevin Brashear, aka Kevin Rotten, decide to go see AEROSMITH with Rose Tattoo, the Pat Travers Band, and SAGA. They're performing at the Rosemont Horizon, as I said, in Chicago. The date was November the 24th, 1982, right? This is the night before Thanksgiving, guys. Well, AEROSMITH was actually playing there 2 nights in a row. So this was the first of a 2-night stand in Chicago. It was about 20 below zero in the middle of the winter, literally end of November, freezing. We decided to jump on a greyhound bus with just our t-shirts and our leather jackets. That's it. And of course, well, I'm not endorsing any of this behavior now. In 1982, gosh, I must have been 15. Let me do the math. I was born in 66. In 76, I was 10. 77, 78, 79, 80, 81. I was about 16 years old. Crazy, right? Is that math right, you guys? Do the math. You do the math. I think I was 16. All right, I suck at math. I'm not going to lie. I should sit here with a freaking calculator when I do these videos so I don't embarrass myself. I was around 16 years old, something like that. The Rockin' a Hard Place album from AEROSMITH had just come out, and a year previous, Rose Tattoo had also released a great album, which was called Dun, da, da, Scarred for Life. It had come out actually just a couple of months before this show. Me and Ross and Kevin, we get to Greyhound bus station in Peoria, Illinois. We pay our money. We get our ticket to take a bus to Chicago, which is about a few hours north. We have bottles of booze. Again, I'm not endorsing this. I don't live the way that I used to, and I'm not in any way advocating for alcohol or any kind of substance use for anybody. This is just history I'm repeating. We had at least 2/5 of whiskey, probably Jack Daniels or Jim Beam, most likely Jack Daniels. We also had a lot of smoke and things like that. Well, we get on the bus and decide we're going to party up. And the thing is packed, right? I don't know how we got away with it. We were underage, we had illegal substances, and we had booze, which we were underage to possess, and we had no adults with us. Man, we were like a little gang, though, and we weren't the kind of guys that you looked at and thought, look at these little 16-year-old kids. Nah, we all had leather jackets on, and Ross was covered in tattoos, and Kevin would often wear t-shirts held together by safety pins, and we looked like a little gang. No one messed with us. Can you believe it? All the way up to Chicago, we literally opened the window and smoked joints like madmen all the way up there on that bus. Nobody said a freaking word to us. Not one word. Not, hey, put that out. Hey, you guys can't be drinking on here. Hey, you guys quiet down. That never happened. This is the good old days for me because I can't believe we didn't get arrested. Well, we take the bus trip. The thing is packed. We're ignoring everybody. We're generally being crazy, teenage, drinking nuts. We get to Chicago and we get as far as we can to the Rosemont Horizon. I don't remember exactly how we got all the way there on the bus, but we did. And I knew that when we left the place, it was going to be a nightmare because it was freezing. So we're pretty sloshy drunk, especially Kevin, who appeared to be in a blackout state. Yep, I've been in many of those, so I can kind of tell. We were all very buzzed for sure. It was, like I say, 20 below zero in Chicago is no joke. It's very, very cold there. We got to the show. The only thing I remember is that we got there and I was disappointed because our seats were in the mega nosebleed. Like, we were upper bowl, man. So we survived the Greyhound bus trip there. We got to the upper bowl. I was like, really? It was like a bunch of ants on a stage. But the good thing is we could hear very well. I gotta tell you something. I don't remember anything about seeing the Pat Travers band, unfortunately. And I really like those guys, you know. Boom, boom, out go the lights, and snorting whiskey, drinking cocaine. Love Pat Travers, especially, what's that album he did? Oh, gosh. Crash and Burn. That's a great album by Pat Travers. Don't remember them playing, I'm sorry. Then the band SAGA was on the bill. You know that song? No one can stop me now. Tonight I'm on the loose. That 80s hit. Well, I kind of liked that song and thought, yeah, SAGA, they're okay. Except when you're going to see Rose Tattoo and Aerosmith and then SAGA hits the stage. Bleh, sorry, we were not into them at all. We were like, God, I wish these guys would end so we can see some rock and freaking roll, because we were fanatical fans of Rose Tattoo from Australia and, of course, lifelong fans of Aerosmith. It was a great bill for us, minus SAGA and minus blacking out Pat Travers. Well, guys, we were there hanging out, and while we were up there in the upper bowl, Kevin Rotten was wearing an AC/DC shirt, I believe. And he looked down to way down there on the floor, and for some reason, somehow, he spotted a guy wearing a Motorhead shirt. Back in 1982, we didn't even have Motorhead shirts yet. They weren't like common. Lemmy wasn't like a common name. They were still underground, kind of. And we decided, wow, that's cool. Kevin decided, I have to have that shirt. I'll be back. We're like, no, don't go. You'll forget where you're at because you're blacked out. But he left. He comes back about a half hour later. He's all sweaty, his jacket's all crumpled up, and underneath it, he's wearing the Motorhead shirt. Somehow, this crazy drunk madman went down there, talked to that guy that had that shirt on, all the way on the floor, which we don't even know how he saw the damn thing, and he comes back wearing the shirt. Wow, that was crazy. We were like, good job, patting him on the back. Good job, Kevin. Now stay here, you're drunk. Well, during the show, Rose Tattoo comes out, and those guys killed it, man. They killed it. Like I say, their album had just been released. The Scarred for Life album came out in October of '82, just like a month before this. This was their third album, and of course, the band was made up of the guy Angry Anderson on vocals, who's extremely known in the underground. They never really cracked the charts here in America, but everyone that really loves good glam and hard rock and, you know, rock and roll, bluesy rock, everyone knows Rose Tattoo. Angry Anderson is this kind of short, bald-headed guy covered in tattoos, wearing suspenders and a black t-shirt, and he's up there just kicking ass. You got to understand, the first 4 albums by Rose Tattoo were produced by Vanda and Young, the producers of AC/DC. So they had a similar thing going on, but different, and they were awesome. All the guys in Rose Tattoo were covered in tattoos, kind of skinheads with real short hair and stuff. They were a different kind of breed, for sure. The kind of guys you wouldn't want to mess with in a dark alley, for sure. I do remember this, though. While they played, they were getting booed. We couldn't believe it. People down in the front 10, 20 rows were like, boo, boo. They did not get booed off the stage, but I could tell the band was bumming because, I mean, who wants to be booed? I believe their set was probably about 30 minutes. It wasn't very long, but the boos continued throughout their show. That's something I do remember, and I was bummed out. Right about that time, Aerosmith was getting ready to hit the stage. We were still kind of like freaking out about those guys getting booed. By the way, they did We Can't Be Beaten, Branded, It's Gonna Work Itself Out. Those were the 3 singles from the Scarred for Life album. They also did the classic Rock and Roll Outlaw, Nice Boys Don't Play Rock and Roll. God, I love those songs. And of course, One of the Boys. Those guys are amazing. Their first album came out in 1978. Second album came out in, I don't even remember what year. Doesn't really matter. 1981. Yeah, 1981. Angry Anderson on vocals. Pete Wells on the slide guitar. Rest in peace to him. Also, Rob Riley on guitar, Geordie Leach on the bass, and Dallas Royal on the drums. They were performing that night as Rose Tattoo in the 18,500 capacity Rosemont Horizon in Chicago. But you know, The main event that night for most of the people was Aerosmith. They were getting ready to go on. The lights went down for Aerosmith, and guess who else went down and left us? Kevin Rotten Bashir. Yep, Mr. Blackout Boy himself disappeared. We were like, well, we're probably not going to see him again. And that was kind of almost right. We ended up watching Aerosmith play, and man, let me tell you something. Joe Perry had departed the band. Brad Whitford, both the guitar players of Aerosmith, were gone, which was not a good thing because us fans were like freaking out on that. But when the Rockin' a Hard Place album came out in '82, we were kind of blown away. Because even though it wasn't Joe Perry and Brad Whitford, it still was Steven Tyler on vocals, Mr. Tom Hamilton on bass, Joey Kramer on the drums, and they brought in Rick Dufay and Jimmy Crespo on the guitars. And that album is great. I hate to say it, but it's great. I saw a review earlier online and some guy said it had 3 or 4 good songs. Baloney! That album kicks some serious ass. I hate to say it, man. By the way, ever seen the Aerosmith box of fire? Here it is, right here. It's a big box, right? Looks like it's in flames. And right here, it's got what looks like a burnt match. And you open it up and it has 12 albums by the band. The first 12 albums they ever did, including the Classics Live 2, and the Gems album. And of course, Rockin' a Hard Place is part of the box set. And this album really does rule, man. It's very, very good. I love it a lot. I can't say enough about it. So they were on the Rockin' a Hard Place tour. They played for about an hour and 20 minutes. And, you know, I found that complete show on YouTube. Not on my channels, but it's on YouTube. If you type in Aerosmith, Chicago, November 24th, 1982, Rosemont Horizon, you can watch and listen. And man, was it a killer show. I got to say this, though. On the second night that they played, they did 4 songs less than I'm getting ready to tell you in the set that I saw. And I heard that Steven Tyler was kind of off the next night. I know he was battling addiction at the time. So I think we caught him on the opening night, the 24th, instead of the 25th, was a lucky thing. I got to tell you something, guys. Kevin was lost in the crowd and the band comes out. There's this weird, dark, like ominous, trippy opening that was pre-recorded. It was very dark and kind of scary sounding. And then the band comes out with Back in the Saddle and they kicked ass. They were really good. Steven Tyler's vocals were great. The guitars were awesome. It was really, really good. Then they did Big 10-inch Record, which was awesome. Steven broke out his harmonica. Love Big 10-inch Record from the Toys in the Attic album. They went into Mama Kin after that, then into 3 Mile Smile, then into a terrific bluesy version of Reefer Head Woman. Oh man, I love that song. Such a good one from the Night in the Ruts album. Then they did Rockin' a Hard Place, the title track from the new album. Lord of the Thighs was next. One of the best songs in Aerosmith history, Lord of the Thighs. I gotta say, there was not a lot of onstage banter that night. Steven Tyler said a few things to engage the audience, but it was mostly rock and roll, which is great in my book. He also did Lick and a Promise, Jig It Up, and then a very energetic version of the song Jailbait from Rockin' a Hard Place. Great tune. After that, Sweet Emotion came on, and Steven said, "Hey, Chicago, you crazy MFs." And he said, "We're going to do a classic for you," or something like that. And then the intro started with that bass, doon, 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 and the shakers and the guitar. And I'm talking about Sweet Emotion, one of the best Aerosmith songs ever written. Dream On was next. Steven comes on and says, "You've been asking for it, so we are going to do it. And it's for you in the front row." And they did a great version of Dream On. I think it was shorter than the original, perhaps. Lightning Strikes was next from Rockin' a Hard Place. Another song that was killer and super raw. I'm telling you, the guitar playing between Jimmy Crespo and Rick Dufay was magnificent. The band was on it. Joey Kramer's drums were killer. Steven's vocals were killer. It was just a really, really good show, to be honest. These guys were putting everything into it. Walk This Way was next. It sounded just like the album, except a little different because the guitarists were different, but it was really true to the original timing-wise. At the end of that song, there was an incredible guitar solo by the great Jimmy Crespo that went into Same Old Song and Dance. What a classic, man. And then after that, of course, Steven said, Mr. Tom Hamilton. So he introduced each member of the band one by one throughout the night. Then they went into a great jam of Milk Cow Blues, which is such a good song. And it was really long and extended. Lots of scat going on with Steven Tyler improvising. It was cool. After that, they did Toys in the Attic, which is another classic from the Toys in the Attic album, the title track, right? The crowd was completely packed, completely energetic. Everyone was singing along and screaming and lighting lighters, you know, back in the old days. And I'll tell you what the encore was in a minute. I got to remember to tell you this. It was $11.50 to see this show. 4 bands, $11.50. I had to buy my ticket through, dun-da-da, Ticketron. Remember Ticketron? Yep. I had to buy my ticket through them, and this show was presented by Jam. That's right. Jam Presents was the name of the company putting on and promoting the show. The band left the stage. I'm not sure for how long, maybe a few minutes, maybe more. But then when the lights came back up, they came out and they did a killer version of The Train Kept a Rollin'. Yeah, Yardbirds classic, of course. When the show ended, there wasn't much talk. It was kind of like, goodbye, good night, Chicago. And we were left there thinking, wow, what an adrenaline high we're on. Wow, we're coming down from our whiskey buzz. Wow, where in the hell is our drunk friend Kevin? We couldn't find the guy, man. We were kind of nervous. The place cleared out. We walked down to the front. We walked down by the stage. We walked everywhere in that building. Kevin gone. We were like, oh no. Because when he blocked out, which I was notorious for too, he would just do the craziest stuff and end up anywhere. Well, me and Ross decided to pull up our leather jackets and start walking towards the O'Hare Airport, which is where we had to go to catch our Greyhound bus the next morning real early. But it was like now 30 or 40 degrees below zero, literally, in Chicago. One of the coldest nights I ever remember walking in my life from a rock show. We walked from the venue and we ended up at some hotel, and we thought, well, let's go in the lobby of this hotel. It's freezing. Let's warm up for a minute. And while we were walking there, by the way, cars kept stopping and acting like they were going to give us a ride, and then they'd pull up and go, F you! Oh, it was cruel. Well, we get into the hotel and we open the lobby door, and standing right there inside the door is Kevin Rotten. Drunk as a skunk, but not as drunk as before. He had come down a little, and he's like, where were you guys? We were like, gee. We wanted to smack him, but not really. We loved him. We still do. Kevin, love you, bro. And anyway, we all decided to go ahead and get warm for a minute, and then we started to trot towards O'Hare Airport. It's freezing. We're hitchhiking at this point. Nobody's stopping. And then again, a car would stop, pull over, and then as soon as we get close, take off real quick. We were like, you bastards. Must have been you Rose Tattoo booers. Anyway, we eventually did get to O'Hare Airport, and when we did, we were half frozen. We were starving. I was personally completely broke. I had no money at all to get food out of the vending machines. I'm begging Ross, who always had money, please let me borrow some money until I get back home to eat. I think he was kind enough to throw me a few bucks. So yeah, Ross, if you're out there, hey man, this was one crazy night. It was really crazy. We ended up sleeping at that airport for hours, if you want to call it sleeping, more like passing out for a while. And then we finally got woke up by some security guard. Hey, get out of here, blah, blah, blah. And then we ended up catching our bus home. And I remember the next day was Thanksgiving, and my awesome grandmother, Virginia, rest in peace, Grandma, she used to make the best Thanksgiving dinners, and we had great get-togethers with the whole family, and, you know, she was the glue to the family, and she came from the Blue Ridge Mountains of West Virginia, from a town actually called Floyd, Virginia, that she lived in originally, and boy, was she a cook. Her Thanksgiving dinners were legendary. I just remember I had very little sleep, and then when I got home from Chicago on that Greyhound, I think there was only like an hour or two to spare, and I actually made it to my grandmother's for Thanksgiving dinner, completely burned out and tired, but man, that food was good for the soul. And I remember my whole family going, you look like hell, you smell like alcohol, but we're glad you're here. And that does wrap up my story. I hope you guys will continue to support me. Could you please subscribe to the channel if you're new here? Maybe give the video a like if you like it. Do some sharing and leave a comment if you have any similar experiences, or if you are a fan of Rose Tattoo or AEROSMITH. Or if you're an ultra fan of SAGA, maybe you can tell me what I was missing. Of course, I was 3 sheets to the wind that night, man. Again, I do not advocate drinking or substance abuse, but I am going to be honest in my stories. That does wrap up this story about seeing Aerosmith and Rose Tattoo in 1982. My friends, thanks for being here. Rock and roll. Have a great weekend. And you can contact me in the email below if you wish. Adios.